The Beards and Bros Podcast.
Alrighty, welcome to the third episode of the Beards and Bros Podcast. As always, I am your host, Ethan Leckie, and today I'm joined in the studio by the amazing Nathaniel Rodefer, or rather, I should say, student body president.
No.
Nathaniel Rodefer. No.
Student body president-elect.
Elect. Okay, fine, fair.
Please
But-
let it be known that this position and me are two very different things, and one of which is here today, one of which is not.
Okay, that's fair. But I would say though, congratulations on your projected win, at least from.
Thank you.
I know it was a very tough race, wasn't it?
Real nail biter.
Yeah. Those of you who don't know, the race was uncontested. So, but yeah, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Of course, I had an assignment that I was entertaining doing last night. I didn't, and because of that, I'm feeling a little bit well rested. So I'm feeling pretty all right.
Good. Yeah, I had a late night Waffle House run.
What'd you get?
Just 2 waffles, cup of coffee.
Man gets the waffle at Waffle House.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm a big fan of getting the hash browns doubled, and then caramelized with the onions, and then put a little hot sauce on them.
Okay.
That's my go-to, and it keeps it under $5. So.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. I've always wanted to get the hash browns, where I'm like, it's Waffle House, so I'm like.
Well,
might as well.
surprisingly, Waffle House is really expensive if you don't get the hash browns or the waffle. Like if you get anything with meat or anything with eggs, suddenly it's just and it's just I'm gonna spend $12 at a Waffle House on this, a little run right here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always weird, being a college student and, you're always in a constant state of, brokenness.
A little bit.
Yeah. And, you just look at the prices of everything. Going from high school to college, that was something I never did. And now it's, every time I go out to eat or,
how can I save $1?
Literally. How can I save this $1? How can I save this, 50 cents? I'm, always looking for the bargain.
Yeah. So did you have prepared questions or?
Oh yeah, I do have some questions. So first off, let's talk about your election or your presidential campaign rather.
Okay.
So what made you want to run for student body president?
It was basically just sort of looking at, I guess, the lay of the land at the time. Being involved in student government. You can do it a little bit passively, or you can do it a little bit more actively and looking at sort of just the social politics and how everyone's interacting. What positions there are. What terms are ending, what terms are beginning. And one of the things people are usually pretty cognizant about in their minds is just so there needs to be a new president every single year. And one of the things that we were looking at is that at the beginning of the 2021 to 2022 academic year, Senate was pretty bare, and that there was about a handful of members that had over a year of experience, the rest of which around under a year of experience, and just basically from that we were able to build the Senate body, but then sort of coming around to the spring election, so looking at the pool of candidates that have experience within student government, that have experience working within university systems and working with the departments to get change done, it wasn't exactly a plentiful list. And it's not to say that you need experience to be student government president, because I think you can be successful without that experience and learn the tools of the trade on the job. But in looking at basically me and Josh were the people that, at least within legislative, had the positional experience, and had the drive and the availability to take up this position. So it's a little bit of a scenario, just we felt like we were right for the job, and there also wasn't exactly a surplus of candidates to fill the job. So that's a little bit that went into it.
Nice. So basically you kind of saw an opportunity to become or assume a leadership position.
I don't know if assumed the leadership position, but use it as an opportunity to not only, well, assume the leadership position, yes, but also be able to work on some policy initiatives within the university. I mean, student body president is an interesting position because a lot of student government is very student government focused. Like it works within the boundaries and the red tape of student government, like committee meetings, Senate. But when it comes to student body president, that is a little bit more external within the UNF community. You serve on the board of trustees as a voting member. You work a lot with the assistant vice presidents of the university. In a way, it is a very institutionalized role that you take as a student, and you represent student government. But in a weird way, vice president is a lot more the head of student government because they're working within the agencies, they're working with other branches, they're working with the executive branch to coordinate policy initiatives. So it's an interesting little dichotomy there.
Cool, nice. And what would you like? What do you wish to accomplish as potential president?
So there's two things that I think are easily accomplishable for the student body that I would like to see through as soon as possible. The first of which is that I would like to see about the installation of solar shades on campus. So for a little explanation, in like a Peace Plaza, an Alumni Square, we have like these, like Pepsi umbrellas for like a lot of like the round tables with like benches and stuff like that. And it's not to say that those, umbrellas are necessarily defunct or unoperable, but what a solar shade is that it is an umbrella with solar panels on top of it, with outlets within the stem of it that you can like plug in devices to, charge your phone, charge your laptop. And one of the things that I think would bring to campus is not only the sort of inclusion of solar panels on campus in a very real and obtainable way of students being able to have access to that electricity, but also help transform these spaces into more accessible and accommodating for those who want to study. I'm sure you know, but Peace Plaza is very routinely full with people, either studying or working on their laptops or attending online class. And really one of the main criticisms that these outside spaces have faced is that you can't charge any of your devices just by the nature of it being outside. So this not only provides an opportunity with this initiative to sort of, re-up the umbrellas, but also transform these outside spaces to better accommodate students. Of course, with a little bit of a, environmentalist flair that I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
The other initiative that I'd be interested in looking into is the transformation of one of the student union study lounges into an interreligious prayer or reflection room for just interreligious or non-religious moments of silence, reflection, all of that jazz. We have the Interfaith Center on campus, but just in the space that it occupies in Building 2, that space was not originally designed to be an interreligious space, and that it is an academic area, or it's an administrative area, with offices and all that jazz. It's been transformed to be able to host these events, but it is not very accommodating if you are a religious group wanting to do a Bible study or wanting to engage in group prayer or wanting to have a moment of reflection. And one of the things that we've run into as an issue is that a lot of these groups routinely do not have access to just a dedicated prayer space, meaning that they have to pray on the green in groups, they have to pray in the library, they have to rent out rooms in the student union, conference rooms, just to meet their sort of religious desires about how they want to practice. So I'd like to transform one of these spaces to be dedicated to that need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the Catholic ospreys usually rent out a space in the ballroom for their masses.
Yeah.
So would there be a space for? Because I know you said reflection and moments of silence, but would there be spaces for religious services?
That would be the hope. Looking at the space, it isn't exactly it's not a chapel. It's not it's not like a dedicated religious space.
Right.
But it would be larger. It would be more of, at least in how I'm envisioning it, it wouldn't be like one of the ballrooms where you could rent it out. It'd be more of like a free for all sort of, whatever groups sort of get to the space can utilize it. So if you're looking to, sort of have those services per se, maybe renting out a ballroom would still be the better option for having that dedicated space. But just to have the default area, it would meet that need.
Nice. Also, I know that I see it a lot in the Honors College, like a lot of we call them initiatives, and a lot of the interest overall in the Honors College is like focused on like the environment and like sustainability.
Continue.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like
Oh, not the butt.
but like I don't know, like I find it interesting because like I don't really see it in too many other parts of UNF. I mean, is it just the nature of our campus like being so close to nature? Or?
Yeah. I'd say that UNF does have a higher population of. I would allege that UNF has a higher population of environmentally conscious individuals, because we advertise that we are on a nature preserve. We do like in biology classes, they actually do lab work out in sort of the Sawmill Slough Preserve, either in terms of documenting gopher tortoises or collecting bugs outside to study and look under a microscope. So we definitely are a school that does have a little bit of environmental stewardship that we do use to an academic extent. But to your sort of mention of, I guess, maybe an overrepresentation within the Honors College, I would say that is a little bit chopped down to probably the influences of Dr. J, the dean.
Yeah.
Because he is an environmentally interested man.
Right.
And to that extent, he has taken his Self and Society course that he teaches as a first-year experience class, and really sort of moved the bar, because it started at just sort of looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, looking at how they want to, sort of see the world globally change overall. And he has sort of shifted it away to that, to more of it just like looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Yep.
How do they pertain to environmentalists? Which is a little bit funny. I have my own thoughts about that. But environmentalism very much is in the blood of the Honors College, which is lovely for people like me because I'm an environmentalist through and through, so I felt right at home with it.
Nice. Yeah. What got you so like interested in these issues? Like particularly in like environmentalism and like sustainability.
Yeah. It really sort of kicked off for me in high school. Because I was in high school, I was doing fine in my classes, but nothing was really like, oh, I want to do this. For a good 3 years, it was just sort of trudging through my classes and APs, just, I guess, to get to college. But my senior year, I took, AP Environmental Science, APES, and it was taught by a teacher, Miss Breza Pierce, or Miss BP, British Petroleum. But, she had a lot of fun with the class. Not only did I sort of naturally sort of jive with the environmentalism of it, but there's also just fun dynamics of, she ran the gardening clubs, we were getting involved with that, we were doing the produce, we were learning about, what it means to be an environmentalist in sort of the age of America that we live in, as well as actually incorporating, sort of field trips and field studies into that high school class in terms of, like, we'd go off campus and we'd go looking through nature preserves and, gathering invasive plants and, just sort of, it was very much environmentalism hands-on, which to an extent I do actually think is a very integral part about being an environmentalist, is that you have to at least a small degree actually engage with the environment to know what you're trying to protect. But I really just sort of found my passion in that class.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, is that well, I guess we've kind of already touched on this, but is so sustainability in the environment, but also the concerns with the Interfaith Center. Are
Mhm.
those? Would you consider those the two main reasons why you ran, or like
I mean,
how would you kind of sum it up? I guess.
are you asking about are there any other initiatives that I'm interested in, or are you asking if those initiatives are the reason that I ran?
I guess would those be the reasons you ran for president?
Um, partly.
Yeah.
There is definitely a sense of um, wanting to give back to a little bit of the communities that I've been involved with because, in no small part, the Honors College, the Interfaith Center, the Institute of Environmental Research and Education on campus. Um, these are all organizations and departments on campus that I have personally been benefited and developed as a person from. And to that extent, in working within their programs and their departments, I've been able to sort of see what's possible with these organizations, and also what the confines are that's preventing them from reaching that possibility. So there is a little bit of a sense of, with this role, I want to be able to work with these departments, help them. I believe in their missions. I want to help them better realize their missions and have better impact for students and sort of develop the programming that they're able to do. Um, But another sense, in terms of running for student government president, a bit of it is also just sort of being able to set the student government tone, if that makes sense. Um, I don't know if you have any particular perspectives on student government within your time here as a freshman, but as someone that's been involved with it since like 2019. It is a little bit of the case where like sometimes it feels like there is a little bit more infighting than there used to be. And one of the things that I would like to see done within the realm of the executive branch is just not really, engaging with that, if that makes sense. By no means am I a perfect person that does good 100% of the time, because I don't.
Right.
I'm very capable of doing bad, either unintentionally or intentionally. Not to say that I choose to do that, but there is a little bit of a sense of, if you can take that goal and desire and instill it within the top, and make it a bit of a top-down system in terms of trying to instill that cultural change. Hopefully that reflects better within all branches of student government. Because Senate's been through its rough times. I personally think Senate has recovered from those tough times, but to make sure that stays recovered, it's very much a proactive effort in creating a student government that is, not only open and inclusive of all students, but is also welcoming of all students, is very much an active change.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, so I want to touch on also one of the other reasons why I love that you're on the show right now is because of your love of memes.
God.
I will say it is. They're some of the funniest.
So you like the Nathaniel story?
Yes. By the way, follow Your Average Nathaniel on Instagram. It is very good content.
Thank you.
So, I guess what got you into
Memes.
and meme culture?
Um, sorry. Person's trying to contact me. Sorry.
It's okay.
No. What got me into memes? Just being a middle schooler. I think this isn't exactly a unique tale. But you grow up with the internet, and a little bit too much freedom on the internet, in retrospect.
Of course.
And you trek into areas, and one of the cool things I was just sort of observing with the internet is sort of these mematic ideas, paired with comedy, that were very much either able to become templates, or either able to become sort of the rudimentary basis of a joke. and seeing those, get shared around, it's just like, oh, I laugh at this. This is fun. I'll participate. I'll, enjoy my time. And that's just something that sort of, stuck with me. It doesn't exactly bring me pride to say this, but, as a middle schooler, I was someone that frequented iFunny. Very much for the worse. And, meme culture is just something that is very much a just staple aspect on, all platforms of social media at this point. It's just sort of a dynamic of, as... only to speak for, Western society, but, within the confines of Western society, social media has empowered us to have these very much shared understandings of either, pop culture or, social situations or dynamics, and, humor being used as a route to share those ideas is just such a powerful thing. And besides it being funny, it's just it is, socially speaking, I would say beneficial to participate in that. But yeah,
Nice.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It's perfect. Yeah. And also like touching on those like the benefits, like so I'm really into memes too.
Connoisseur. Three men in a room talking about memes.
It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, like it helped me like bond with my older brother. So, because I guess he was my like introduction to memes.
Sort of like him, sort of him engaging with that culture was sort of the, sort of keying you in,
Yeah.
sort of like, okay, I'm going to do this too.
Yeah, like it started with the troll face, and then
Oh dear God,
Yeah.
2012. Oh.
Yeah, it's bringing it back.
No, yeah, that is. I'm actually quite happy that those have made a resurgence. Because I remember, 2012. That was just, the incarnate of, joy on the internet.
It's a huge thing, just the troll face.
Just from seeing those videos, just seeing that little troll song played over like gaming clips, or like playing
Exactly.
like the troll lobby in Roblox or whatever demonic manifestation was occurring at the time. And in a weird way, seeing its revival is a little heartwarming, because like it's not exactly the same, but it's still just like I still like it.
Yeah, that's what I love about memes, is that like even templates that are already been used and concepts that already like have happened before, they're always constantly being reinvented.
Yeah. I mean, have you, when I say sort of like a, you know the concept of irony, but do you know the concept of like post irony, or like
A little bit.
Yeah, where it's kind of just like, one of the things that like, you often see is that like, like there's the initial wave with like Trollface or Doge or like whatever, dies off in popularity. But then it's sort of like, is either reinvented or it's taken up in a reuptake of people using it. Ironically, to sort of poke fun at people using it to poke fun. And then in a very sort of meta-ironic or post-ironic fashion, people will then make those same jokes, but the joke is no longer the initial joke of the people originally using it, but the people making the ironic joke on it, which in a weird way cancels itself out, making it just originally funny again.
Right.
And just from the concepts of like, that sort of process of post-irony to, sort of like reinventions of, sort of like the family comics of Doge, or like, Trollface being sort of reincarnated in very, impairments with either mental health challenges, to put it kindly,
Right.
or social ills, if that makes sense. Seeing those reincarnated is just very culturally interesting, and it's a little bit nice to engage with that.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, like, in those reinventions and those like reincarnations, like I wonder if it just says like, at least about society in like a broader context, like have we kind of just in a broader context, have we just like essentially run out of ideas, and we're
Well, no.
What do you think about that?
I mean, that's like saying artists have run out of colors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is always the possibility that something, brand new, original, a new primary source can be created, but the value of, creating secondary works or, repurposing, shouldn't be understated. Because the fact of the matter is that like, you know, um, Trollface in like 2012, where it's just like people would just like post like a link to an image that just lead to that just solid PNG that's just still just staring at you,
Yeah.
is very different from people trying to create these stories of, like Trollface being like this, religious fanatic that hates the United Nations and is having schizophrenic episodes. It's like those are two very different things.
Yeah.
And to an extent, that original concept is being used as a mechanism to create a communal understanding or at least communal recognition within, this new invention. But at the end of the day, I do still think it should be valued as its own independent work, and it's different. So like, I don't know. I just think that's just kind of how the culture works now. Not to say that it's not new, but it just involves an aspect of environmentalism and reducing and reusing.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to like people who would say, I don't know, like memes, like older generations, and they just don't get it, or it's like it's not funny. Like, where's the joke in the?
So we're talking like older individuals are saying this, or are we talking like who is this? We're creating a straw man here.
Right. Okay.
Who are we straw manning?
I guess we're straw manning like. Well, how about I'll just say this: like people who aren't invested in meme culture.
Okay, are we talking like people that are not a part of Gen Z, or are we talking like Gen Z that's not invested in meme culture?
I guess more so people that aren't a part of Gen Z.
Okay, I mean that's hard because like I don't even so we created the straw man of Gen Z individuals that are not involved with meme culture, but like I mean, how do you even define meme culture at a certain point? Because like in a very I guess real way, traditionally we like to think of it just like, oh, you take an image and you make a joke out of it and you plaster it everywhere. It's like Trollface, Harambe, Doge, all that stuff works conventionally within the conventional idea of a meme culture. But I would also argue that stuff like TikTok trends, and stuff within that realm of people, sort of making, a joke and thematic, also falls within that rounds, even if it's not sort of lacking a sense of standardization that traditional meme culture has in terms of being unified around sort of one image. In that, jokes themselves very much, possess the attributes of being able to carry a mematic cultural recognition. That just from like saying stuff like, material girl, that like, people recognize the joke that you're making there.
Yeah.
And in a very real sense, that just may be like a TikTok sound. But TikTok sounds in this day and age, or audios, very much still have the same potential to carry that sort of mematic recognition and sort of humor response. And it's just like so to the straw man you've created, there's like people that are in Gen Z and are involved in meme culture. It's just like, does that even exist?
Mm-hmm.
Like relatively speaking, the vast majority of Gen Z has some form of social media, and the vast majority of them use that form of social media, in a way of which humor is involved with it, through the consumption of jokes. It may be different qualities of jokes or different areas. But I honestly think you would be challenged to find someone that is not involved with, meme culture to any extent that fits a correct definition of what it could be.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I do forget sometimes, like, because I remember seeing a video on YouTube. I think the channel name was Emperor Lemon.
I don't know the channel, but
Yeah.
it sounds about right. Sure.
Yeah, it's a good video on
Oh,
how.
EMP Lemon.
Yeah,
Yeah, EMP Lemon. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Is it Emperor Lemon?
Well, I mean, it's that's the full. I mean,
Oh,
abbreviated.
okay.
It's
Oh,
Emperor
wow, I've
Lemon.
learned something now. Look
Yeah.
at me. Humbled.
But yeah, it was a great video on like how Trump used memes.
Oh yeah, that idea. Yeah, I've seen that video.
Right, and he talks about like how memes, like it's not like just the troll face or
Pepe or
yeah, but it was just like these general like or these heavily repeated like messages or ideas.
I mean, it's the fact. I mean, well, let me be clear. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not affiliated with Trump. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just talking about it.
Right, we're just
please
discussing.
please do not take my involvement with student government and relate it to this because it's not. Anyways, with that disclaimer out of the way, because I know it can be a charged topic. Yeah, I mean, just very bluntly speaking, the phrase "Make America Great Again" is a meme. It has a memetic, signal. It has a memetic reflection, and it can mean different things to different people.
Right.
It can have different sort of memetic charges.
Right. It was perfectly. It was. I mean, just looking at it like impartially, like it was just like perfectly vague, but like.
I mean, it was a slogan of Reagan.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that it was already present, culturally speaking, that it wasn't creating something new.
Right.
In a very real way to sort of how we observed meme culture of things getting rehashed or reinvented. It's taking something that already exists and putting your own spin on it, and it's still mass consumable and mass recognizable. I mean, yeah, it's just, it's... trying to think of almost equivalent, I guess, outside of sort of like the joke world of something that carries a memetic charge. I don't know. But yeah, it was it definitely had a memetic quality to it, And I guess that's politics to an extent,
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotta get your message out there.
Yeah, like Andrew Yang with with math. Make America think harder.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess to an extent, there is an aspiration of, campaign slogans to function as memes.
Yeah.
Whether that happens in the way that you want to or not is very different because I know people will, very much, bastardize and take the piss out of, Hillary Clinton's, I'm with her, sort of. Which has almost become...
Or like Love Trump's Hate. I remember that one.
Yeah. Where it's just like sort of just like you can put a memetic image out there, but you can't control how that memetic idea is processed because it's ultimately the culture of consumers that decides that and how they recognize it and use it.
Right.
Looking for a recap.
Yeah. Sorry. There it is. Okay. Yeah, we're professionals here. Yeah, have you so that makes me wonder now, like did you use so in your campaign for your election, I mean
I love where this conversation is going. So
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to tell where it's going, isn't it? But did you I guess looking back, do you think you've used I guess those memetic strategies?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, very plainly, campaigning with memes is... It can be politically dangerous.
That's fair.
Just to not even talking about the cultural reception of how students will react to certain things and if they hold different values, but just to sort of lay out an example of how trying to use memes can be very harmful to your campaigning. There was a senator who was campaigning in Ignite Party back in the day, and they made, and this is back in like 2020, and they made this, they made the Bernie Sanders meme, like, I'm once again asking you, and they're like, I'm once again asking you to vote for Ignite in the fall elections. And what happened is that members from an opposition party took a screenshot of that image, and then filed an elections complaint against Ignite Party within the reasoning that they were using Bernie Sanders as a means to endorse their campaign.
Oh my
And that was a
gosh.
whole process that had to be drawn out within the judiciary branch. So yes, we did try to use mimetic images, but you got to understand that people do want to play politics.
Yeah.
And part of that is using judicial systems to one's advantage. So it is something that you have to play safe with. A little bit more conservative than one might like to for the sake of trying to use memes. But like an example of something that we did is that when we were going around taking, me and Josh, we were taking, campaign photos. We were just walking around campus, taking photos in various locations and just looking for ones that turned out all right. But we did take pictures with the goldfish.
Nice.
Very clearly, the reason why we did is because, we saw the goldfish. We were just like, the goldfish is recognizable. And to that extent, it is a part of campus culture. From various individuals choosing to climb onto it, to just the fact that it's a goldfish out in front of the library, which just has a little bit of a positive reaction to it. So in that extent, yeah, we did try to harness that sort of mimetic potential and recognition amongst UNF students within potential campaigning. That never came to fruition, of course, because the race became uncontested.
Right.
But if it wasn't uncontested, I think you would have seen that.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. What are your I don't know. It's like a little small question, but what are your thoughts on the goldfish? I guess.
What are my thoughts on the
Our
goldfish?
beloved Colonel Cracker.
I think it's a positive. It's something that I've looked into, but sort of on and off. The lake out in front of the library has often had sculptures. I don't know if it's a sculpture team or like ceramics, but we have a UNF group that creates these sculptures that they put in the lakes, and I think it's 100% a net positive. Just because it's recognizable, it's fun to see something floating out there. I know previously they had like a big, like bulbous, like a rubber duck, and I prefer the goldfish to that. So I'm happy in that sense. But I think it's cool culturally that we've just had these sculptures in lakes and that they're made by students. The only thing negative I can think about it is that like sometimes people will like get a little like antsy and like try and put like their stickers on it, of which I'm against that. Like
Yeah.
that is the one clear thing where I'm just like, don't put your stickers on the goldfish. So I mean personally, I've ripped a few of them off. So that's the only like negative I can think in association is people unintentionally defacing the goldfish, but otherwise I think it's a net positive. I'm glad that's here.
Nice. So I guess another question would be like, would you potentially consider bringing back those art installations by the library as president, or would you?
So you're asking me if I'd want to have more sort of sculptures on campus?
Yeah, I guess like just consider the idea of bringing it back, or maybe having temporary like sculptures or something like that.
Yeah. There is. I will say that there is. A section of this isn't just 100% student government. They did help them, put it in the lake in terms of like getting a lot of senators out there, like lift it up and spoosh. But it is dependent on this UNF student group of what they're creating, what they want to create, and I think it would. I guess it would be weird for us to like. Either like contract them or anything or commission of them like a sculpture that they were making out of their free will or their own volition. If like there's more sculptures that are either being refurbished or that want to be put into these lakes, I'd love to see them installed on campus. Yeah. I'd also like a general greater campus appreciation or programming towards. Just sort of the arts in general, because that is actually something that we don't really advertise all that well, but we actually have a really good arts program and a lot of great art resources. We got like 2 art galleries on campus. We have the Mocha downtown, which is free to UNF students, which is a very high caliber, art exhibition and exhibit. So in sort of like a tangential idea of, talking about the sculptures, that's another area of the arts that I would like to see further explored and developed for the ease of consumption for UNF students.
So I've kind of like, I'll be honest, I kind of ran out of questions. But I guess I would just kind of ask, like, I guess as a senator or even before that, did you ever envision yourself, like what is being, I guess let me ask, like, is being president, like, was that like sort of
Like planned?
like always the goal, or like is it something you kind of like just sort of thought like, oh, maybe I could do that?
No and yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit funny because I've talked with a few of my peers that I went through the appointment process to the legislative branch as a senator.
Wait, also, I don't mean that in like a maniacal like
No,
always the
yeah,
plan,
no,
but
no.
yeah.
I mean, very directly, no, it was not always a plan. I think that it's common for senators or people that get involved with student government to be like, oh, what if I ascended to the highest position? But quite literally, there was no planning or concrete intention for it to happen pretty much up until the spring semester. When I was a 2019 freshman senator, the real aspiration that I really had was to serve as University and Student Affairs Chair within the legislative branch, the position I currently hold. And basically all I did was, was a senator for 1 year, was the vice chair of that committee for my sophomore year, and then I've served as the committee chair this year. And realistically saying, when it comes to just sort of like, having planned ambitions, USA chair was the full extent to that. This is also a question I got when I started Unity Party back in fall semester, and I think it was more like, in the front of my mind as like, hey, this might happen. But that wasn't the intention with creating Unity Party either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, and I guess if you were to go back to that freshman first time, like starting out.
Nathaniel.
Yeah, freshman Nathaniel, first time senator. What would you say to him? Like, what kind of advice, if you could sit him down and be like, look, buddy, listen here.
I told him to have more confidence, and probably more acceptance of the self. I mean, just sort of looking back, Nathaniel as a freshman was very different than the person I am now. And I don't know. I mean, it really took me a year in college to really sort of get up to speed and sort of beginning to develop the person that I wanted to be. Ongoing process still going on. But I mean, one of the things I just struggled with was just sort of feelings of either inadequacy or feeling like not doing enough or not being enough, or sort of the feeling of needing to prove self-worth. And maybe it's because of where I am now as a rising senior in college, but I think a lot of those things shouldn't weigh as heavily as they did, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, would being president or president-elect, excuse me.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's funny because like I have to toe this line where I am president-elect.
Right.
I'm getting sworn in today, but I'm still president-elect.
But yeah, like, would this? Because I know personally, my older brother, he wants to really be in politics, and
Oh, you're asking if this leads to politics outside of college?
Yeah, is this indicate? I mean, I'm not trying to. I know this is probably a question you've gotten a little bit, but is this any indicator of, or something that sparked interest in any sort of potential political future?
Once again, a yes and a no.
Okay.
If we're talking like politics, like the House of Representatives, the Senate, the actual executive branch, no, that is too bloody. And to work within those fields, you have to want to do it, and two, in this modern day and age, you have to be a perfect person, which very bluntly I am not.
That's okay. No one is.
I mean, no one is, but to an extent, because you're such a public figure, because you're such a public servant, there's a lot of little things and a lot of little mistakes that you just can't afford to make. And that means abstaining from a lot of aspects of life. Aspects that I may not want to abstain from, or, things, or, aspects of perfection that I know I would either slip up on or need to learn about, to an extent of which I don't think would be feasible or healthy. There might be aspects of local politics that I could be interested in. There is a lot that can be done at the local level when it comes to either state governments or the committees that these governments maintain to sort of run municipalities or city resources, and maybe that's something I could see happening, especially because just looking education wise from what I've surmoused at UNF. Environmentalism, all this research, all lovely dovey. But there's also a degree to it, just like we can prove that the Earth is gonna go to hell and back due to issues of climate change and all that jazz. But it's gonna keep remaining an issue until something is actually done about it at the governmental level, which is maybe a little bit of calling. But outside of that, no. No.
No, that's okay. Also, so you talked about like wanting to change the culture within student government, because you said there's a lot of infighting.
Yeah, I mean, people. So I get it. Student government is important. We distribute the A&S fee, which surmounts to over four and some change $1 million once it's added up from tuition, and we're public representatives and we do all this stuff, but I think that it's still student government. Like, so it just kind of needs to have like a pluralistic view of just like, yes, this is really important. You should care about this, and individuals involved should aspire to be their highest selves. But at the same time, I do not think student government is something that's worth losing friendships over. Just plainly speaking, because at the end of the day, it's still student government. And, it's just like we do have these processes, of removal, of impeachment, of, filing judicial cases against each other. But sometimes I do think that those corrective measures can cause more harm than good. And one of the things that is not necessarily frightening, but I guess is an unfortunate term, is that to an extent these corrective measures I feel have been commoditized in terms of
Like a political theater, or like something.
Not like a political theater, but people are a lot more willing to use them, throw them around, very seriously consider. And I don't want to say that impeachment should never be considered, but like
It should be like a last resort.
it should very much be a last resort. And if you're like, I don't know if you should be impeached over one decision, which is something that we have seen in the last couple of years of student government, is that people are a lot more willing to on the drop of a dime pursue these legal corrective measures. And as a I never sort of filed any of those, but like it it's never contained. It has ramifications for the entire university. It has ramifications for everyone that's in student government. So I guess just like conflict resolution would be nice to see.
Nice.
And also just creating a greater sense of cooperation, because we can do a lot of work when we're working together, and we can have disagreements over how bills are languaged or maybe priority of issues. But there is so much in student government that, practically speaking, the core idea everyone agrees on. Everyone wants to better students. Everyone wants to work on initiatives that better students. And when you let little disagreements or people acting wrong, really get at you, it becomes hard, and it can almost have like a snowballing effect in terms of just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and creating a negative environment for a lot of people. So yeah, I'd like it to be a lot less negative.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you hope your presidency, or your the fact that you were elected, do you hope that will sort of help people within student government realize that you don't have to be this like perfect uptight person to
Well, I still want people to be the best selves.
Right. But sort of
I guess in a sense, on my behalf and on my trying to think of the right words. Because my verbiage is actually important here. Within the realm of executive, I do want to create, a collective team that's working for student betterment together. They can have their different ideas, they can have their different opinions, they can disagree with each other, and I want them to if that's the case. Mm-hmm. But I want them to work together, and in a very real way, I want it to be as unproblematic as possible. And in a sense, from that sort of leadership, I know there's always, sort of power struggles in Senate, and people, desiring a position, blah, 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 just part of the beast. But I want that to be reflective onto the other branches. Judicial doesn't have a problem. But mainly on just sort of the dynamics between, legislative and executive, it is a beautiful harmony when they work together. When people, for the most part, get along, they have their, dissents and disagreements, but like at the end of the day, they're still able to function together in a friendly manner, outside of cordialness. And that's just something that I think should be aspired to, because I think student government is a fun thing. I'm an environmental studies major. I have not the most vested interest in being involved in student government from like a career standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's just something I do because I think it's fun, and it has really empowered me with good experiences that have grown me as a person. Mm-hmm. And if student government can just be that betters the people that are in it, betters the student body with the initiatives and policies that they're doing, it can be a very beautiful thing. I just think it is a very active process in trying to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. Are we good on time?
You're good.
Okay. This was making sure, because we had the room for till 10:30.
That's okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I really don't have any more questions.
Alrighty.
But I guess last thing I would say is, like, are you excited for this new role? I mean, simple question,
Such
I know.
a double-edged sword. Yes,
I know.
yes, I am. I was sort of like making a reference to this when I was sort of talking about the differences between president and vice president, but like, the office of presidency and student body president really does give access to student voice when it comes to, the board of trustees, because you serve as a trustee. It's, you're having these meetings with, associate vice presidents, excuse me.
That's all good.
It is one of the few student positions that gives you a very versatile access to a lot of the administration, a lot of the institution, that regularly speaking, that everyday students just do not have access to, do not have insight to, do not have a say in. So that's something that I am very excited for, and sort of making those connections and being able to try and harness those relationships to get some stuff done on campus. I am nervous for some stuff.
That's okay.
I mean, one of the things that I am coming to terms with is that, in a very real sense, a couple of my friends, like whenever I'm like walking around with them on campus, I'm like, saying hi to people, like, oh, everybody, Nathaniel, and just like stop nodding. But in a weird sense, that dynamic is changing. From very very much speaking, this is a public position. I'm effectively a public figure now, and I don't say that with pride or with hubris or all that jazz, but it changes the dynamic from, oh, Nathaniel, you know everybody, to, oh, Nathaniel, everybody knows you. Which
it's kind of like,
I don't know if I like that part.
Yeah. The celebrity or the
no,
fame, or...
no, I don't mean that in a celebrity way. I mean that into just like there is a common understanding that people, there's just a common understanding to, I guess, my existence at the very least.
Okay.
Which is kind of scary.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because like it's. I mean, I feel so like like bad about like even bringing this up, because like maybe this like worsens my situation, but like it's because like people talk about you, but like it's weird when like we're talking about like on like like anonymous like message boards where like there's been experiences where my name has been brought up, and that's something I don't know I expected as possible happening at my time in college. And like, I mean, it has negative effects, just very plainly. It's just like, it's a very, it's interesting waters to navigate, because it just makes things different. So that is, I'll learn to navigate it, but that is something that that is one of the things that I'm apprehensive about. I am. Overall excited.
Nice. Well, yeah. I guess thank you for being on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And good luck with
Thank
being
you.
student body president.
I will take any luck I can get.
Yeah, I think you'll do a good job.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Also, can I self-advertise?
Yeah, of course.
I would just like to say that the offices of the executive branch will be hiring for this new academic year, up and coming. Furthermore, I'd also like to advertise that there are positions open within the judicial branch and the legislative branch. So if you have any interest in joining student government, please know that there are spaces open and that we'd love to have you.
Is there any way for the audience to reach out to student government?
You just contact somebody.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's probably like an official person, but just like anyone will point you in the right direction.
Okay. Yeah. Again, thank you.
No
Good luck with your presidency.
Thank you.
I think you'll do a great job.
You can say that to me when I finish.
Yes.
Alrighty.